Welcome to this week's episode of the Jewish Cooking Connection, sponsored by the Jewish Federation of the Greater San Gabriel and Pomona Valleys. I am Cantor Lori Rimland-Bon, and today we're going to be making Blintz souffle for the holiday of Shavuot. Shavuot in Hebrew means weeks. We count 49 days from the second night of Passover until Shavuot. This holiday is also known for the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai. Now you're probably guessing, why dairy? Why is it a dairy holiday? It's a dairy holiday because the Bible looks at the Torah as if it were milk. Also, when we got the laws of kashrut, there was a prohibition of boiling a calf in its mother's milk. And there's also an Agadah, a legend that talks about when the Jews were standing at Mount Sinai ready to receive the laws of kashrut, they realized that their pots weren't kosher, and so therefore they ate dairy foods in order to be able to get ready to procure new pots. So now we're going to start making our blintzes for Shavuot. Here I have blintzes, sour cream, eggs, sugar, orange juice, salt, and vanilla. Very simple to put together. So the blintzes can be frozen. They can be the Trader Joe's brand. You can get them at Costco. You can get them at the grocery store. There's a company called Golden. There's Ratner's. Any cheese blintzes or fruit blintz that you like will work with this recipe. It can be a generic blintz for all I know. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by taking my 9x13 casserole dish, and I have my butter or margarine that I'm going to melt. And while that's melting, I'm going to talk about the Jewish way of cracking eggs. As you can see, I have some of my eggs already ready, and I have one more egg, but I wanted to talk a little bit about what makes an egg not kosher and not edible. So when you crack the egg, if there's a red dot, that means that the egg has been fertilized. And we're not allowed to eat eggs that are already fertilized. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the eggs in the bowl, and I have my scraper here. Let me go back and get my butter in my casserole. Make sure that you get all of the edges of the casserole greased. And it'll be liquidy. You can't help that. What you're going to do is you're going to take your blintzes and put them in the butter, and you're going to roll them in the butter. And I'm going to do this quickly while I'm talking to you. You know, my mother worked full time. She worked first at the University of Judaism, and then she worked for Camp Ramah, and then she worked for the Jewish Home for the Aged. And she never had time to do anything, but she managed to make these incredible meals when it came to blintzes. And I think the secret to her success was the fact that they had frozen blintzes, and she didn't have to start out and make the bletlach and get the cheese and do all of those things. So we were fortunate to have this. This is a dish that you can have for any holiday. It's good for a brunch. It's good for a wedding. It's good for a bar mitzvah. It's good for a funeral. It's good for anything. So what you've seen me do is I've got my blintzes all arranged now, and they've all been dipped in the butter. So now I'm going to put together the rest of my ingredients. I have eggs, and I'm going to start by beating up my eggs. Make sure that they're beaten well. I'm going to add my sugar, and that's 3 tablespoons of sugar, a half a teaspoon of salt, a tablespoon of orange juice. I'm going to measure out a teaspoon of vanilla, and I like real vanilla. I don't like imitation vanilla, so bear with me, because I think the more fragrant this is, the more delicious it is. So here's my teaspoon of vanilla. And last but very not least, is my sour cream, and this is 1.5 cups of sour cream. And I'm going to put it all in this bowl, and I'm going to slowly mix it together so it doesn't slosh all over the place, because I'm a bit of a slob and you don't want to see me get my beautiful apron that I got from the Federation. You don't want to see me mess it up. I don't want to see me mess it up either. But you're going to slowly start mixing things together, and you're going to try to get all of the lumps out of it. So I'm going to start a little gingerly, and then I'm going to whisk it until it's nice and smooth. And once it's smooth, I'm going to pour it over my Blintzes. And after I pour it over my Blintzes, I'm going to take 2 tablespoons of sugar with a teaspoon of cinnamon, and I made some cinnamon sugar, and you can do that, or you can buy it ready-made. I think it's easier to just make it myself, because I always like a little extra. So I'm mixing this up, and I got rid of all of the lumps, and now I'm going to pour it over my Blintzes. And I want to make sure that everything is covered up really well. Here's my spatula. And, as you know, my mother used to love to make this recipe. My mother was not a very good cook, but she could never spoil this. This was always something that came out good no matter what she did to it. My grandmother was really the chef in our family. My grandmother could bake, and she made incredible desserts and, things that we look at today and go, ooh, gee, you've got kishka and you've got Helzel, and you have all of these really cool foods. She used to make paprikash, and all of these foods were things that I grew up with. And now when I say that, it's like, gee, your grandma made that? Oh sure, my grandma made all of the authentic Eastern European Jewish foods. She had one recipe for cookies, and then she would put different things in the cookie dough. She would put in dried fruit, or she would put in poppy seeds, or whatever she felt that whatever holiday was coming up. So now you're going to take your cinnamon sugar, and you're going to be generous with it. You want to cover everything. You want everybody to have a bite of that. So as I do this, I'm trying to cover everything up. And I like to use my hands when I cook. I think it makes everything taste better. So first, I'm going to open my oven, and I'm going to put in my casserole. You please set your oven at 350. You're going to bake this for 45 minutes. It comes out when it's golden brown. And here is my finished product. I want to thank all of you for joining me today. You can find the recipe on the Jewish Federation website, and a copy of this episode of the Jewish Cooking Connection. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
כל המעשים ברוך ומבורך בפי כל נשמה גדלו וטובו מלא עולם דעת ותבונה סובבים אותו המתגאה על חיות הקודש ונעדר בכבוד המרכבה זכות ומשור לפני חיסו חסד ורחמים לפני כבודו טובים מאורות שברא אלוהים